The most powerful people in your life have been using a secret against you. Every time you explain yourself, you hand them a weapon. Every justification you give becomes ammunition. Every defense you mount builds their fortress higher. And the worst part? They trained you to do it. They taught you that explaining yourself makes you look innocent. That justification equals honesty. That defense proves integrity. They lied. You're at work. Marcus is sitting across from you. Your boss questions a decision you made. Your body instantly tightens. Words tumble out explaining your reasoning, your process, your good intentions. You watch their face, not convinced. So you explain more. Justify harder. Their doubt grows with every word. Now watch Jessica, your most confident colleague. Same situation. She simply says, "I handled it." Period. No explanation. No justification. Who does your boss respect more? You already know the answer, but you don't know why. And what you're about to discover will change how you navigate every conversation for the rest of your life. Here's what nobody tells you about human psychology. The moment you explain yourself, you activate an ancient trigger in the other person's brain. A trigger that immediately shifts the power dynamic. A trigger that transforms you from authority to subordinate in less than 3 seconds. Think about the last time someone over-explained something to you. Did you trust them more? Or did a tiny voice whisper, "They're hiding something"? That voice isn't wrong, but here's where it gets dark. You've been programmed since childhood to activate this trigger in yourself. Explain your actions. Justify your behavior. Defend your choices. Every teacher, every parent, every authority figure trained you to give away your power willingly. But 500 years ago, one man decoded this manipulation. He watched princes rise and fall. He studied how the powerless became powerful. And he discovered something so dangerous. His name became synonymous with evil. They called him Machiavelli. And what he revealed about never explaining yourself will feel like crossing a line just by understanding it. Machiavelli observed something chilling. The most powerful rulers never explained their decisions. Ever. Not because they were arrogant, not because they were cruel, but because they understood a fundamental law of human psychology that most people die without discovering. Explanation is subordination. Listen carefully, this is where your old self starts dying. When you explain yourself, you unconsciously accept that the other person has authority over you. You make them the judge. You become the defendant. And once that dynamic is established, it's almost impossible to reverse. But Machiavelli went deeper. He realized that when powerful people don't explain themselves, something fascinating happens in the observer's mind. The absence of explanation creates a vacuum, and the human brain cannot tolerate a vacuum. So what does it do? It fills that vacuum with assumptions of competence, of authority, of hidden knowledge. The less you explain, the more powerful the other person assumes you must be. This is why mysterious people seem attractive, why quiet confidence beats loud insecurity. Why, "because I said so," from the right person ends every argument. Your parents knew this. Your boss knows this. Every person who's ever made you explain yourself knows this. Now you know it too. And you can never unknow it. But wait, it gets more complex and more powerful. See, Machiavelli wasn't telling you to be rude. He wasn't saying to be dismissive. He discovered something far more sophisticated. The art of the sufficient response. Here's how it works in real life. Someone questions your decision. "Old you, well, I thought about it and considered multiple factors and weighed the pros and cons, and new you, I considered all factors." Someone doubts your capability. "Old you, I have experience in this area. I've done similar projects. I graduated with honors." New you, "I'm equipped for this." Feel the difference? You're not being evasive. You're being precise. You're not being rude. You're being powerful. But here's the twist that changes everything. When you stop explaining yourself, other people start explaining to you. They fill the silence with their own justifications. They reveal their insecurities. They hand you their weapons. You become a mirror that reflects their need for approval back at them. Think about every powerful person you've ever met. The CEO who says no without elaboration. The expert who states facts without justification. The attractive person who doesn't explain their standards. They're not special. They just understand what you're learning right now. Power flows to those who don't chase it through explanation. Now let me show you what happens to those who embrace this truth versus those who reject it. The explainers, maybe this was you until moments ago live in a prison of their own making. Every interaction becomes a trial where they're the defendant. They wake up exhausted from defending choices they had every right to make. They attract people who feed on their need for approval. Watch them at parties sexplaining why they chose their career, their partner, their lifestyle. Watch them at work justifying every email, every decision, every breath. Watch them in relationships constantly proving their love, their loyalty, their worth. They're performing for an audience that never applauds. But the non-explainers? They live in a different universe. People assume they have reasons. Good reasons. Powerful reasons. Reasons too sophisticated to require explanation. Their silence creates an aura of competence that no amount of talking could achieve. Here's the dark truth. People who demand explanations from you aren't seeking understanding. They're seeking control. And every explanation you give tightens their grip. But when you stop explaining, something beautiful happens. The controllers reveal themselves. They get frustrated. They demand more. They show their true face. And suddenly, you see who's been manipulating you all along. Your chronic explainer friends will call you arrogant. Your energy vampire relatives will call you distant. Your insecure boss will call you difficult. Good. Let them. Their discomfort is proof that you've reclaimed your power. Their frustration is evidence of your growth. Because here's what Machiavelli knew. The moment you stop needing everyone to understand you is the moment you become impossible to control. But we need to go deeper, because there's something about you specifically that makes this even more powerful. You're not just someone who over-explains. You're someone who's been specifically targeted for exploitation because you over-explain. Think about it. Who demands the most explanations from you? I'll bet it's the same people who never explain themselves to you. Who get angry when you ask them questions? Who make you feel guilty for having boundaries? Who act hurt when you don't justify your feelings? You've been in an unconscious power struggle your entire life. And you've been losing because nobody taught you the rules. Until now. Here's the advanced technique that will make you unreadable. The Machiavellian flip. Next time someone demands an explanation, watch what happens when you say, "Help me understand why you need that information." You just flip the script. Now they have to explain. Now they're on trial. Now they're subordinate. Most people will stammer. They'll say, "I'm just curious," or "I just want to understand." Your response? "I appreciate your curiosity." Then silence. Watch them squirm. Watch them fill that silence with their own insecurities. Watch them reveal exactly how they plan to use your explanation against you. But here's the layer that will blow your mind. The people who respect this boundary, who don't push for explanations, those are your real allies. Those are the people who see you as an equal. Those are the relationships worth investing in. You've just created a filter that automatically screens out manipulators and attracts authentic people. Machiavelli called this the economy of words. Every word you don't waste explaining yourself becomes currency. You can spend on things that actually matter. Remember David from your office? The one everyone respects but can't quite figure out? Watch him tomorrow. Really watch him. He never explains, he states, he decides, he acts. And everyone assumes he must know something they don't. He does. He knows what you know now. This is where you become dangerous in the best possible way. Everything you thought was wrong with you, your need for privacy, your discomfort with interrogation, your instinct to protect your inner world, those weren't flaws. Those were your survival instincts trying to protect you from psychological vampires. You weren't too sensitive. You were surrounded by people who demanded too much access to your inner world. You weren't too secretive. You were protecting yourself from people who would weaponize your truth. You weren't too difficult. You were resisting programming designed to make you easy to control. Let me tell you what happens when you fully embrace this. Your anxiety drops because you're no longer performing for an invisible jury. Your confidence soars because you're no longer seeking permission to exist. Your relationships transform because manipulators can't survive without explanations to twist. But most importantly, you finally become who you were meant to be before the world taught you to explain yourself into submission. Here's your new script for life. No is a complete sentence. I've made my decision, ends discussions. That doesn't work for me, needs no elaboration. I'll handle it, requires no justification. Feel that? That feeling in your chest right now? That's not arrogance. That's your authentic power, trying to break free from decades of conditioning. The old you is dying. The you who needed everyone to understand. The you who justified your existence. The you who explained your worth. That person served their purpose. They survived. They got you here. But they can't take you where you're going. Remember Alex? Your friend who always makes you explain your choices while revealing nothing about theirs? That dynamic ends today. Remember your Aunt Patricia who interrogates you at family dinners? She's about to meet a version of you she won't recognize. Remember your manager who questions every decision while never explaining their own? They're about to recalibrate their entire approach to you. If this is hitting you the way it hit thousands before you, subscribe now, because what comes next will fundamentally rewire how you interact with every person in your life. This is just the surface. The deeper principles will make you completely unreadable. You have two choices right now. Close this video. Go back to your life of endless explanation. Wake up tomorrow in the same prison, performing for the same jury, exhausted from the same trial you've been fighting your whole life. Or draw a line in the sand, right here, right now. The next person who demands an explanation from you becomes your first test. Don't explain, don't justify. Simply respond with quiet confidence. Watch what happens. Watch their surprise. Watch their recalibration. Watch them suddenly treat you with the respect you've always deserved. But here's the thing. This is just the beginning. Machiavelli's principles go deeper. The psychology gets darker. The power becomes more intoxicating. If this video found you, and let's be honest, it did, you're ready for what comes next. You're ready to understand power at a level most people never reach. Subscribe. Not because I told you to, but because you recognize yourself in these words. Because you're tired of explaining yourself to people who never deserved your explanations in the first place. Because you're ready to become unreadable. The notification bell isn't just a button. It's your initiation into understanding the hidden psychology that runs the world. Most people will never find this video. Most people will die still explaining themselves. But not you, not anymore. You've already changed. You felt it happen. Somewhere around the moment you heard about the Machiavellian flip, your old self started dying, and that person is never coming back. Welcome to your new life, where your silence speaks louder than their demands, where your power grows with every explanation you don't give. Where you finally become who you were always meant to be, someone who never needs to explain themselves again. The most dangerous person in any room is the one who doesn't need you to understand them. Now go be dangerous.